You know, Ken, I got to tell you, listen, I've been a fan of yours from way back from the first film that you brought here to Toronto many, many years ago. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end. But I got to tell you, this one, all right, first of all, I am tired of hearing that this is your last film. So please tell me that this is not your last film, because I think you still have a lot in you.
Well, that's kind of you, but I mean the I mean, if I started one now, I'd been 90 by the time we would finish doing this. So, I think the reality is I can't see getting around the course again. Now, I mean,
Yeah,
the problem is that I mean, some people can do it from behind a monitor, but I can't. You know, you got to be on your feet,
understood.
12 hours a day, chasing around, getting knowing everyone's name. You need an emotional commitment. You've got to carry a lot in your head, and know everyone's name. You know, and
Yeah.
so there comes a point at which it would things drop off after a time.
I understand. I understand. But take a little rest and think about it again. All right. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But for now, let's talk about the old oak because I got to tell you, if this is your swan song, my goodness, you are leaving us with such a wonderful, beautiful film. I really did not know that I was going to need a full box of Kleenex for the full film. I was so touched and moved by this movie, honestly, because oh gosh, unfortunately, it is something that we can all relate to and are, if anything, more than ever now with what is going on in our world. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, Ken, honestly, I was just so moved, and I want to start by asking. I mean, you've had this 30-year collaboration with your co-writer Paul Laverty. How did the two of you decide that this was, you know, you were going to write about this? And what I love about it too is it leaves us with a little bit of hope, some optimism.
Yes, he's not the. I mean, I'm not the co-writer. He's the writer. I mean, he
Yeah,
does the. Yeah, I mean, we talk about it. You know, we talked about what would clarify the situation of these ex-mining villages which have been abandoned for political reasons because the miners' union was the strongest union, and when they were defeated, Thatcher, you know, the right-wing prime minister, closed the pits and abandoned the communities, and the other party, the so-called left parties, has also abandoned them. And we wanted to show the plight of and what has happened and how it is now a seedbed, can be a seedbed for racism, um, and just all the facilities fading away and communities left with nothing.
yeah,
And then Paul heard the story of the Syrians, the refugees from the Syrian war, and there were more people in these villages per head of population than anywhere else in the country because they're out of
yeah,
sight. Houses cost you can buy a house for $6,000, I suppose now.
yeah,
I mean, half the price of a used car. Buy you a little house. So of course they were very cheap.
yes,
Property was cheap, and they were out of sight. And this was a community with what they stood up in, and a suitcase if they're lucky, and their home's gone in a foreign country without the language, most of them completely lost and
yeah,
needing support. And how in this coming to a deprived community, could these two people could they find a way of living together
mm,
and even supporting each other? And at the outset, the odds seem very tough. And then to find a way through that, if there is a way through, maybe there isn't.
yeah,
Um, and that way you clarify because it puts pressure on the local community. It clarifies who they are and
right.
their responses. But it also says something about the tragedy that refugees have experienced, and why we have to see them as people.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And of course, you have to show both sides of the coin. You know, it's just realism, unfortunately. But you've got this character played brilliantly by, you know, Dave Turner, who, of course, you've worked with for a couple of films. He's so wonderful as TJ Ballantyne. I mean, when we learn more about his story, like your heart just opens up more and more, but how he accepts them, you know, even though, as you say, he's got his own thing that he's going through as well. And I wanted to know, when you cast the beautiful young actress who plays Yara, Alba Marie. Oh my goodness, she's so great. She's a teacher. I was reading up a little bit about her. She's just beautiful in this movie. And their connection was so wonderful. Did they hit it off immediately? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, you're very kind. I mean, Dave Turner, TJ, is he was a fireman most of his life. He's from a village nearby. He's from a village nearby. He was a fireman. He worked for the firemen's union. He's always been political. He's got a sense of politics. But seeing the way politics has gone and the way that area has gone, he never despair as well. And we got to know him in the 2 films he did. He was the guy who showed Paul around the area, because I knew it quite well. I mean, Dave showed him around in his car without any thought of being in the film. And I mean, our audition process is just a series of little improvisations about family situations that, in a way, are not from the film at all, but can call on the same kind of emotions.
Right.
And so gradually, 6 or 7 or more times, lots of times, you see him a couple of times a week for weeks on end, and just gradually go further and further into things that, you know, will reveal emotional depth. And he just blew us away. I mean, the real emotional sensitivity and understanding and listening, which is the great gift. And very touching. I mean, it made us cry. I mean, fictional situations, but touched us. And then Ebola, all the families are from the area, but we looked hard, but we couldn't find someone to play the main girl, young woman. And so we got some 2 women film directors who one is Palestinian, another one knew the Syrian actress as well. Well, they both knew the Syrian actress as well. They gave us 30 suggestions, and we saw them on Zoom, and we tried little things out on Zoom. And then 3 seemed to fit the bill. So they came over to the northeast of England. They tried things out in, you know, we gave them each separately a couple of days. Of trying things out with the local Syrian families, with the people in the region, with Dave, because we cast him by then. And Jesse, who connected, and Ebola was the clear choice. I mean, the others were fantastic, but in different ways. And there's just an immediate warmth to the girl, and principle, absolute principle. You know, she's rock solid, absolutely rock solid, and but her strength is hidden by a generosity and a you know, capacity to connect, you know, with kids. And her rehearsal was working with our stills photographer, Josh Barrett.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And he taught her how to be a photographer.
Wow.
And some of the pictures in the scene where they look at all the stills.
Oh God, so moving. Yeah.
I mean, when she talked. But of course, what I hoped would happen, did happen, is that in concentrating on the photography, she had to, obviously she toured the area, got to know the area. She made contact with individuals she wanted to photograph, you know, just by making connection, taking initiative, getting their support, which is what she does in the film. And learning about it and getting to know the people's concerns. So in a way, the photography was a way into her discovery.
Fantastic. That's a great story. I didn't know that. That's amazing. Also a very important character in this film, of course, is the pub. You know, can't do this film without it. It just felt like that great little community pub in northern, you know, England. And it just, wow. Was that hard to find, and just it's such a great spot to do
Yeah.
this.
Well, it was a pub. It had been closed for some years, so Fergus, the designer, revived it, and and then it had a back room, and so we made that the place that had been, where the miners had fed,
Yeah,
and then it could be revived as the place where the Syrians came in at. I mean, in real life, the community centre in that village was much bigger. I mean,
right.
hundreds of people, but it seemed. I mean, we didn't have the resources to build a whole addition, which is what it would have needed, but it seemed to work as an image,
It did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it felt cozy, and I like that because when everyone was together, they just felt as
yeah,
one. Which brings me to that saying that we see on the wall, and we find out early in the movie: if you eat together, you stick together. I mean, this anybody can relate to that. How important is that to you, Ken? Eating with your family, your friends, and
um,
you close together.
um, yes. I mean, it's very. I mean, sometimes you just have solitary moments and need them, but as a I mean, absolutely, that's something I understand. I mean, with the group we work with together, we always have a meal together with friends. There's nothing greater than meeting.
Yeah.
Um, I'm running low. I might at some point, Bunny, have to pause and move this over, and I can plug it in, but I'd have to move across to do it.
Well, that's
But
okay. You know what? I've got one more question for you, actually. We're going to wrap up in a
yeah,
few.
that's right. I think I'll be okay. But if
Okay. Okay.
I
That's
suddenly
okay.
get
No worries. I'll let you go soon so you can relax and get a little rest
That's
because I know
okay.
you've been busy.
I won't
Um,
short you, I promise. I'll keep going.
okay,
So,
not a problem. Not a problem. I want to go back to we were talking about 2006, The Wind That Shakes the Barley. That was one of the first films I've seen of yours, and I did see this at the Toronto Film Festival. And I remember interviewing a young lad, Cillian Murphy, for that film. Now
yes.
look at him winning the Oscar for Oppenheimer. My goodness, what did you see in that young lad that you went, yeah, he's gonna go somewhere?
Well, I mean, he's a wonderful actor.
Yes.
He'd done quite a few films when we met, but it, I'll tell you what impressed me about Killian, because I say he was an established actor. He was
Yeah.
successful, and we were looking. It was set in Cork in Southern Ireland. The film, the
Yeah.
whole film. I mean, a golden rule is you've got to have people from the area. Nobody puts on an accent. It's their voice. Killian is from Cork, and the part was someone who's. I mean, he's not a farm labourer. He's a brother with a brother, but he's from a more middle class family. He's going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
He's going to medical school in England. I mean, he's a more middle class character, and Killian fitted it absolutely. And I said, look, a bit, can we meet? We were meeting people in a sort of a hall in the centre of Cork. Killian just turned up. He sat on. I mean, I'd hate keeping people waiting, but there was a line of chairs. Killian sat on one, along with non-actors, lads who were farm labourers.
Hmm.
Alongside them, came in, dead ordinary, and we just chatted. Lovely man,
Yeah.
and then said, "Okay, nice to meet you," and off he went.
Hmm.
And the modesty of the man was just very touching, and no fanfare, no requirements. And then of course we saw him again and did our usual auditioning, no favors, no showing the script, anything, explained how we worked. He was up for it, knew the story, and throughout the filming, he was the most generous performer.
Wow.
I mean, he's not any good in himself, but he enabled other people to be good.
Yeah.
And and he, I mean, we always shoot in sequence. The a surprise is a surprise. So the things was he didn't know he was going to be shot until the brother came in and gave him the information.
Right.
Things like that. And he was up for that.
Wow.
And I mean, he was a leader while being his modest self, and that's a real quality. So I mean, he's not only a very fine actor, that was plain, but he was the warmest, most modest man, and his wife was terrific too, Yvonne, and
Yeah, well, they
so
haven't changed. I have to tell you, he hasn't changed with all the success. He's still the same. It's amazing.
and
Yeah.
he's handled his fame so well because
Yeah.
he's kept himself private, and
Yeah.
so I have a lot of time for Cillian.
It's a beautiful, yeah, he's wonderful. Well, listen, Ken, thank you so much for all of your films, but this one in particular, I honestly, I have no words. It's absolutely beautiful, and I really do.
Well, it's very kind of you. It's very
Yeah.
kind of you, Bonnie. I mean,
Oh,
it meant a lot to us really, and to be able to meet the Syrians
yeah,
and try to tell something of their story. And I'll tell you of a moment that, because they were really nervous at the beginning, never been in films, didn't go to the cinema
I'm
really,
sure.
and a bit apprehensive. And obviously we made them welcome, and the first day or two, tried to, they overcame their nerves and they were fine.
Mm,
And then they noticed, being English, at 4 o'clock, we stopped for a cup of tea and
right.
cakes were passed around. Well, Syrians make beautiful cakes. And so
Yeah.
I saw them talking amongst themselves. And a couple of days later, they were there, tea at 4 o'clock. Out come, here's some cakes from the
Yeah.
Syrian mothers. And they were
Beautiful.
the fantastic cakes. And suddenly, the Syrian cakes at 4 o'clock, when they were in the shoot, that became the highlight of the day.
Yeah.
And you could see them. I mean, they were a foot taller at the end of that day, just because of the the approval rating of the cakes. Everybody
Yeah.
said, well, these are the best cakes we've ever had.
They look
And,
good in the film when TJ tries one, and yeah,
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. And so little things like that actually just. Oh right, I'm going.
That's
Um,
okay. That's okay. We're gonna wrap it up. It's all good. It's all
okay.
good.
Anyway, really nice to
Listen,
see
thank
you.
you so much for your time. Listen, you got to come back to Toronto and visit us again when you can, okay?
Okay, I will
All
do.
right, Ken. Thank you so
Very
much for
nice.
your time.
Yeah,
Okay,
very
take
nice to see you again.
you too,
Okay.
my friend.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. Okay, bye-bye.